Hello and welcome to our panel discussion that'll look at how you could increase your hiring appeal as a cloud security professional. My name is Tony Vitsa and I'll be the moderator for today's panel discussion. Joining me today are two very esteemed panelists, Kok Leung and Chuan Wei Ho. Kok Leung has 25 years of IT and cybersecurity industry experience and became a full-time academic in 2019. Prior to joining NUS ISS, he held the position of Deputy Director in a publicly listed company that oversees both IT security and IT infrastructure, and also worked with system integrators and government agencies. At NUS ISS, Kok Leung's teaching and research focus is on cybersecurity. The security subjects he teaches includes cloud security, IoT security, security architecture, and information system security. He also has a raft of degrees and certifications. These include an MBA from the University of Melbourne, a Master's in Computer Science and Information Systems from the National University of Singapore, a Bachelor of Applied Science in Computer Technology from Nanyang Technological University, and he also holds a CISSP, a CCSP, a CISM, a CISA, a SABSA, and a PMP certification, just to name a few. Chuan Wei is the Group Chief Information Security Officer with ST Engineering and has been in the IT industry since 1992. He has over 20 years of experience in information security. He provides thought leadership, formulates and implements strategic technology development, manages professional services and cybersecurity operations as well. He's also a volunteer as the Asia Pacific Technical Advisor for ISC². His career includes various IT management roles in the financial and telecommunications sector regionally. He's also an authorised instructor with ISC². He has lectured at Nanyang Technological University, the Institute of System Science at the National University of Singapore, and Temasek Polytechnic as well. He's received his IT degree from the University of Southern Queensland and carries the following professional industry certifications: CISSP, CISA, CFE, and BCCE. Gentlemen, hello and good and welcome to our panel discussion.
Hi.
Excellent. Now, our first question that we're going to look at today is around the cloud and security in the cloud. Why do you feel that we should rethink security in the cloud? And I might start with you, Kok Leung, if you wanted to give us some thoughts on that.
Yeah. The security in the cloud is the same as the information security, but yet it is not the same. The same part is that the basic security principle, they are the same. But when we talk about the cloud, the technology behind the cloud is not the same. Take, for example, when we talk about cryptography for data encryption in the cloud, we'll have to discuss beyond cryptography. We talk about at which layer in the data storage do we encrypt the data. We could do it at the basic storage level. We could do it at the volume storage level, object storage level, file level, or application level, or even database level, such as transparent database encryptions or proxy level encryptions. This discussion go beyond the basic cryptography, but only get carried out in the cloud domains. So these are not the traditional discussions.
Fantastic. And Chuan Wei, what are your thoughts around security in cloud, and why do you think we should potentially rethink our approach to security in cloud?
Okay, I just want to add on to what Kok Leung mentioned earlier on then. We have a lot of cloud service providers right now in the marketplace. And these providers are also pushing out their own training and certification. The marketplace or the industry, a lot of young people are looking at all these vendor training and certification to be the reference point for cloud security. And I don't think that's right, because every vendor implement their security strategy slightly differently, even though they all conforms to the basic confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Then it is also important to note that we should have a common baseline, and everyone who is interested in cloud security should rethink how should they approach cloud security instead of just going to the vendor certification.
And Tranway, that's a really, really good point. It actually comes to the next question that we have. For those of you that may have some experience with cloud, of course, there's what's called the shared responsibility model. And that really goes to the heart of how cloud providers look at security in terms of how they manage that security with the partners and the cloud users. So on that basis, understanding the cloud security and the shared responsibility model, how do you feel that model works? How do you feel it's appropriate for what we try to do as cybersecurity professionals? And are you able to sort of give some advice and feedback on that shared responsibility model? Coquelin, over to you.
Yeah, I think the shared responsibility model is a very good idea. And it has been made clear between the cloud service providers and the buyer on the enterprise side, the individual responsibility that need to be held by each party. For example, when the enterprise go to the cloud, they need to be very clear the responsibility that are on their parts, which includes on legal sides, preparation for legal hold. This was not as discussed in the past, but as the enterprise go to the clouds, they will need to engage the cloud and discuss early as possible how they could get the clouds as well to be ready for legal hold if that were to take place. So that's one scenario.
Excellent. And Tranway, what are your thoughts around the cloud shared responsibility model in terms of security?
I have a slightly different idea about the shared responsibility model, because even though it provides a good reference point for people to look at it to say, oh, no, this is my area of responsibility and that's yours. But in reality, when you implement a cloud solution in a company, my guess is that a lot of people will end up not only be the cloud service provider consuming the service, but they also do what I call provide the service internally then. That's why we have what I call the public cloud as well as the private cloud. And in the case of the private cloud, then what's the scope for the responsibility? And where do you draw the line? And sometimes it is very dangerous to say that, oh, I only cover these certain areas and that's how I should be referencing to it then. In actual fact, for cloud security professional, they should be able to read both sides of the fence. That means being a service provider and also being a consumer. It is very important to understand that. And to add on to what Coquelin mentioned, the legal hold stuff, it's something that people have neglected all this while. And so far so good is that no one has ever engaged in a legal dispute whereby they had to invoke the legal hold. But can you just imagine when they do invoke that, what will be the potential downstream implications and confusion that's going to cause?
They're really, really good points. The only thing I would personally like to add around the shared responsibility model is that many organizations are using different types of cloud. And of course, as a result of that, unless a cloud security practitioner is aware of all of those different shared responsibility models between those different vendors, that can often cause issues in terms of how they manage that cloud security risk. And I suppose segueing further, the CCSP Cloud Security Certification, which is the ISC² certification for cloud security, is a vendor agnostic certification. So for those particularly who are doing multi-cloud, and many organizations, well, most organizations are deploying a multi-cloud strategy, it really helps to address that shared responsibility model and some of the differences between the different cloud providers. So let's move to the next question, and we talk about the CCSP. From your perspective, what can I, as a budding cloud security professional, command in terms of with the CCSP? What does it represent? What does it mean? Coquelin, over to you.
Thank you. Firstly, CCSP certification is vendor neutral. The certification certifies that the candidates have the relevant working experience and plus the knowledge of the domains required to execute the job task. This job task is very important in the context of ISC². ISC² at the regular intervals conducts job task analysis. And this job task analysis is a methodological and a critical process whereby ISC² will determine the tasks that are required to be performed by the security professional who are engaged in the profession defined by the CCSP. So the result of this job task analysis is the updates to the syllabus of the examinations. So this process will ensure that the candidate study the contents that are relevant to the job task as defined by the major market players and get tested on the topics that are really relevant to the role and responsibility of the practitioner today.
Fantastic. And Tranway, did you want to add to that in terms of what your thoughts around the CCSP are, what they represent as a certification?
Well, if we were to look at the domains of the CCSP, there is a certain emphasis and some emphasis on the portion of information security, which is something that's very unique. If you compare the CCSP certification with other relevant certification, then the beauty of CCSP is because it combines both the cloud aspect of things together with the information security. So it's very difficult for someone who just passed or who managed to attain the CCSP and say they don't understand security, right? So the beauty of CCSP is that. And to what Colin mentioned, being in a market vendor neutral, it actually brings all discussions back to a level playing field. Because if not, you end up people who subscribe to a particular cloud service providers and you start to use their acronyms, the product names, and that can actually throw a lot of people off the track because I don't, for example, if I use AWS, I will not know what you're talking about when you talk about Google Cloud Platform, right? So you need to have a common language, and the CCSP is the platform that I see that brings everybody together to have a common language, a common definition and terminology then.
Yeah, and in many respects, and I speak as I myself am a CCSP certified professional, it really does, to your point, Tranway, it establishes that common lexicon between all the different cloud vendors in much a similar way to what the CISSP does when it comes to cybersecurity. It makes different vendors, different technologies, different processes and the like, all effectively understand each other with a common set of languages and standards, which is what ISC Squared works towards in terms of its vendor agnostic philosophy. So let's look at the last question that we have here. Let's assume that I'm considering a career in cloud security, and let's assume that I've decided this is an area that will grow. I know that various different industry bodies have cited cloud security as growing exponentially. I know Gartner this year has turned around and said that cloud security will grow by over 30% year on year, so that there is a huge potential, particularly for people who want to become cloud security professionals. What steps could I take in order to prepare for this talent gap? Leon, what are your thoughts around what a individual could do in terms of preparing for a career in cloud security?
For me, the CCSP study guide is a very good resource. When I went to the cloud more than 10 years back, I would have to rely on my limited knowledge in my mind, and I would have to read as much as possible to articulate the risks of going to the clouds. But when I saw the CCSP first editions, I was very impressed because for the first time, there is a collection of all the best practices that's required for my role then to go to the clouds, a collection of 6 domains, a full comprehensive considerations that I need to take upon if I were to go to the cloud. Now, without CCSP, I have to read all of the plans and try to figure out what are the right knowledge for me to go to the cloud. So to me, CCSP contains the right amount of the contents, the right comprehensions, and for whoever is interested to start the journey of going to the cloud for cloud security.
Excellent, excellent. And Tranway, what are your thoughts around the steps that a professional could potentially take in order to meet this gap in talent around cloud security to take the next journey on their career, so to speak?
Okay, I would suggest anyone who is interested to do cloud security to at least to become a member of the local ISC Squared chapter. Now, there's a reason for why I'm saying that, because if you would become a member of local chapter, you can then reach out to a lot of the professionals who are already practitioners in this field, be it in information security or in cloud security then. talk to the individuals, because nothing beats than hearing the experience and learning from those experience. Well, what I understand is that the CCSP exams are all scenario-based, and if you don't have the relevant experience, you will find it very challenging to attempt some of those questions. So it's both beneficial to the individual to learn from experience, then coupled with the reading and the methodology that Kok Leong has suggested, then you definitely be assured that you will have covered all the necessary domains and sections before you attempt the actual exam.
Excellent, excellent. And of course, for those who do want to become CCSP certified, there are official training options that are available across the Asia Pacific region. Kok Leong, can I ask you, just related to training, what are your thoughts around training? How beneficial do you think doing official training will be for a person who's looking at becoming a CCSP and wanting to work in that cloud security space?
Yeah, if they will want to go in depth into the contents of CCSP, I think they should approach the official training partners, because in these official training partners is certainty that the trainers are the official certified authorized trainer from IC². So they are very certain that the material used is also official contents provided by IC².
Yeah, and why do you think the official material is highly valuable? What's your thoughts around, particularly around currency of material and just the changes that occur in cloud?
Since the first editions of the CCSP material, the book has been changed to the current version 4, and that means that initial years the books was changed every year until the version 4 at 2009. And this is in line with the changes of the technology. In the cloud, the technology just moves so fast, and the book just catch up with the technology and make itself relevant to the market.
Yeah,
so the content is relevant.
Excellent. And you spoke earlier about the job task analysis.
Yes.
And that would reflect, did you want to speak a little bit about the job task analysis and why the CCSP has changed?
Yes, I'm particularly excited about job task because I thought it was quite an interesting idea. It makes the contents relevant to the professional who is executing the job to secure the clouds. So these job tasks are defined by the global security professionals who inputs the job task into this job task analysis. The outcome is the 6 domains with the job task clauses articulated, and the contents was written to reflect the learning objective required in the job task to allow the professional to carry out their job. So the whole contents, the whole guides is written with that objective in mind rather than just pure subject based. So that enable the candidates not wasting time to learn things that are not relevant, but to focus their attentions to learn what is required to gain the knowledge of the 6 domains.
Great, excellent. Chuan Wei, I just wanted to go to you because you are an authorised trainer, so you've taught many a CCSP student in your time. Just in regards to the material, why do you feel that the official materials and the training is so valuable for budding cloud security professionals? And what sort of feedback do you get from some of these students when they do sit down and understand what they're learning?
Okay, maybe just want to add on to what Kok Leong mentioned, and the key word here is actually being relevant. IC², one of the job tasks workload, IC² goes through the review of the material annually, at least. We solicit all the feedbacks from all the professionals to understand the actual landscape. What are we actually doing it and how are we doing it? Now, all this has been translated into the training material. Going to the authorized training partner or training institution to learn the syllabus is no-brainer. You want to make sure that you pay for what you get, and you don't want to spend money and then to learn something that's no longer relevant or being useful in the marketplace. Then, most of the feedback I received today is that while IC² comes with a very thick books, of material to read, the instructor experience sharing very much real life, and the students are able to relate what is being taught in class to the textbook, and then some experience being shared. And the classroom scenarios, I understand, and Kok Leong can also attest to that, is we don't go through slide by slide, but in actual fact, we expect the students to do a lot of pre-reading and then come to the class with an open mind to learn the right stuff. I use the word right stuff because a lot of students I come across tend to have a very different appreciation or some misunderstanding of certain definition, which makes their life a bit painful. So going to the authorized training center or institution will actually guarantee that you are learning all the right things and being relevant and useful in the marketplace going forward.
Excellent. And I'd like to sort of look at this as a last question that we haven't actually got listed that we're going to talk about. I'm going to ask Kok Leong, what has the CCSP done for you in terms of what sort of changes has it given you in terms of being a security professional? Have you found it beneficial for your career?
I've gone to the cloud more than 10 years back, and after having gone through the CCSP materials, I realized that there's so much I don't understand in the past, and I would say I was quite bold to have gone to the cloud, not knowing what I don't know. So I was really glad to have come across CCSP because of the wide comprehensive domains written at the high level, not at the implementation level. So in a way, it provides me a roadmap, a reference point for me. If I want to execute certain jobs, I just have to jump into the modules in the textbooks to look at the content descriptions. But nevertheless, it will not give me the detail on how to execute the job, but you give me the reference, many reference on the NIST standards, on the ISO standards, and the relevant contents for me to then jump to other resources to get into deeper on the contents and not losing sight of the big picture and the comprehensive roadmap that the CCSP offer.
That's a great answer, and in many respects it was a very similar experience for me personally, because having done the CCSP, I realized just how much I didn't know around cloud security, and it actually taught me a lot in terms of making sure that when you're dealing with risk inherent in cloud security, you actually look at those risks and you actually address them. And to your point, it doesn't explain to you how precisely to do it. That's not the point of the certification, but it does encourage you to make sure that you're aware of those risks and ways to actually address those. And Tronway, I'd like to ask you the same question. How's the CCSP helped you with your very long and very distinguished career?
Well, I have to openly admit, I've yet to set for my CCSP exam. I've been reading the material and all these things all this while. And fortunately or unfortunately, I'm actually in the midst of reviewing cloud security proposals. And while I read the book, the book is a good source of reference, especially when you deal with the different cloud service providers. And then you realize that, hey, these guys missed something along the way then, because the book doesn't speak about these things or doesn't talk about these things. So it's a good reference for me, even though that I use it as a gauge. Also, at the same note, people who are from the respective cloud service providers, they themselves are not security trained by default. They only happen to pick up the relevant product skill sets, and thinking that with those skill sets, they are already into cloud security, which is actually not true. Right? They really need to get a formal training in information security first, and then move on to the specialization of like cloud security.
Yeah, and hopefully you get to join the ranks very, very soon. One of the analogies that I use when I talk about the CCSP and the CISSP is typically when you learn to drive a car, for instance, and you do your training to drive a car, you learn all the rules of the road effectively, right? And then you go off and learn how to drive the Hyundai or the Toyota or the Lexus or the BMW, whatever it might be, and they're the vendor. That's the vendor training that you do effectively. But without knowing the rules of the road and understanding how it all works, then you're going to crash your car very, very quickly, right? And in many respects, our certifications represent that analogy being the rules of the road, and that's why it is so useful. With that, what I would like to do is I'd like to thank our panelists for today's discussion, Kok Leong and Chuan Wei Ho. We hope you have found the panel discussion informative, and of course, if you do have any further questions or interest in becoming certified as a CCSP, taking the exam, or potentially completing training, please visit our virtual booth here at Black Hat Asia 2021. Thank you all, and see you all soon. Chuan Wei and Kok Leong, thank you so much.
Thank you.